Please stand. Call to order the November 9, 2017 Town Council meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one public comment. Mr. Sabazio.
Ron Sabazio, 142 A Old Plainfield Pike. I don't know if you people have ever heard banging around the edges. You never get to the heart of the problem. The problem that you all know about is we don't have a good revenue source. And the thing that's kept this town from having a revenue source for the last 30 years is the planning board. And it's pretty soon you're going to have the ability to do something about that. And if you don't take that under your wing to do that, if you don't have the courage to do it, then don't expect anything different. 18, 20 years ago, Rick Grant, myself, Roland Pollard started to talk about multiple use zoning. All right, it took 18 years for the planning board to finally develop those zones. What resulted was a lot of little Paolucci sites, and the rest of the sites are going to be full of solar farms. So you guys, I'm going to talk about windmills because 3 of you have been here. We have Republicans on the committee who don't believe in global warming, and they don't want to put any of their money into fixing it. We got Democrats on the committee who say people shouldn't have dryers, and then they don't want to look at windmills to alleviate that problem. They don't want, say, Troy to have a gravel tank because of the dust, but they drive their kids to school and pollute the air with their gasoline. So you need to fix your planning board to fix the community. You're banging around the edges with South Foster. You're banging around the edges with this gravel roads. You need to fix your major problem. Money.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a couple of announcements. There is a veterans ceremony this Saturday on November 11th at 11 at the Ben Eddy building. If the weather is prohibited, it will be at 4% the fire station. Also, I wanted to note that our chief has been selected to represent Rhode Island as a final leg runner for the 2018 USA Special Olympics Games to be held starting in July in Seattle. The law enforcement officers from across the country will make up approximately 12 teams to be guardians of the flame and run as torchbearers and escorts from June 26th to July 1st. The runners will run routes and make appearances across Washington, with the routes converging on Seattle for the opening ceremonies of the games. So, congratulations. Moving on, we have the minutes from October 26th.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of October 26, 2017 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to payroll warrant number 16.
I make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 16 in the amount of $41,471.38.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to payroll warrant number 17.
Make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 17 in the amount of $36,346.27.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to general warrant number 8.
I make a motion to accept general warrant number 8 in the amount of $133,409.84.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to general warrant number 8A.
I make a motion, we pay general warrant 8A in the amount of $150.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Moving on to the tax refund warrant.
I make a motion that we accept the tax refund warrant in the amount of $30,972.15 as presented.
Second.
Just to make a note of that, that is due to the motor vehicle refunds for the change in the taxes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to quarterly reports.
I make a motion to accept the quarterly reports from the planning board, the school committee, the Forest Land Trust, and Moosa Valley Volunteer Fire Department.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I believe there might be an error in the school committee report with the name that should be somebody else's. Perhaps Bossy's name's on there.
Oh,
I believe it
yes.
should be Brendan's.
He was still a member.
I'm still getting paid too.
August and September.
Oh, no, that's true. Okay, no, that's true, thank you, I did not notice that. Thank you. Sue, can you notify them of that, sure that they know in the future? Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to old business. At a previous meeting, Mr. Bay had resigned from the position of EMA director. We put out advertisements for them, and we have 2 applicants. What is the pleasure of the council?
I'd like to make a motion that we interview the 2 applicants. We have one that, at least I don't know, and I would like to have a chance to talk to the gentleman who took the time and the effort, he saw the advertisement and applied, and I think it's only fair to give him a chance to speak for himself.
Is there a second? I'll second that for discussion purposes.
I think it's important that a gentleman, somebody from the town apply in good faith and conscience, and I think if we don't give this person an interview, it might look like nepotism, favoritism, whatever you want, whatever word you'd like to put to it. And I would, myself, would like to meet the gentleman. I have nothing against Heidi, it has nothing to do with her, it's just that I believe he deserves a fair shot at it in front of us.
Well, as a result, one second, Mr. Savazio. As a result of Mr. Savazio's conversation tonight, and hoping that we get more people involved, I would agree with at least interviewing the gentleman and Mrs. Rogers. I think that that would only be fair, is to get more people involved in the future. So, and if we have one candidate who did, and we don't even have the courtesy to interview, I think that might hinder us as far as further
Totally agree.
people applying for positions.
Yeah,
It's
Cheryl was
about-
correct. We should always interview. The Democrats, the last group that went out, started not interviewing, just appointing their friends. And I think Foster should go back to the proper way to operate.
I think when you put up an advertisement and people respond, you owe them that courtesy.
I would agree. Any further discussion? Mrs. Wright?
I know Mrs. Rogers is on the board of canvassers, and this is a second appointment.
She applied for the position.
Right, I understand, but I would think that one appointment in town, you know, I don't know how many people we have on numerous boards.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion has been made to interview the 2 candidates. It has been seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
That was a
Yes.
3 to 1.
You gonna set that down?
We can set that up now if that would be convenient to everybody, and then, Mrs. Dillon, if you could contact both candidates and see if those dates work for them. Okay.
Do you have these already?
No, I don't, what would work for the council.
Okay.
Is there
But I can come on next week.
If you're going to keep it, that's going to be open session, because you're going to have to post it, so you want
Right.
everyone, that's fine, but you're going to have to post the meeting.
That's
so
true.
that-
So then that needs to
Wait,
play into what,
why?
Because you're all going to be there, all five of you, or four of you.
We didn't do that when we interviewed.
Well, that's, you've got to have, I mean, that's a considered a meeting. Once three of you are together,
I get that, I
that's a
understand.
meeting.
no, it was posted, but no one showed up.
Okay.
No, it's, that interview was posted and there wasn't
Yes,
anybody
okay.
on the
All right,
board.
all right.
So, I don't know whether the 16th, which is next Thursday,
I can do that sometime.
I'm fine.
Mr. Dillon,
Well, it's next Thursday.
the 16th.
It should work.
Yes,
Can you be able to? No, you can't.
we can on Thursday. Wednesday, there's a planning board meeting, I believe.
I can't on Wednesday.
At night. Okay? That's subsequent. I know, this, well, we wouldn't have time to post it. I'll throw out a
So
date.
the 16th,
How about the
16th
The
floor,
20th,
Oh,
16th floor.
yes. Mr. Stone will be out of town. And I'm assuming you want to be part of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the 20th, that's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Does that paper for them?
I'm checking with our council first, and then we have enough.
Yes.
Oh,
I
are you Mr.?
No, I'm asking, that's why I asked.
Oh, I don't know. I thought you said he is here.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. We'll take that.
So the 20th, would you please check with the other candidate? And would 6 o'clock work for everybody? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So once you vote on that, to put that on that date at that time.
Thank you. Just gonna try getting my phone.
Okay.
They're not gonna be on Thursday. When's that gonna be posted? On Thursday?
Is that,
Weekends don't count. I'll do
I
that.
don't know.
48
Is
hours
it doing it?
before.
Weekends count.
Yeah, weekends are okay.
Okay. So, we now have selected the date of November 20th at 6 o'clock here to interview the 2 candidates. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I didn't ask if there was any discussion, but I think we discussed it. Okay, thank you so much. We can now move on to new business, and we have the storm readiness presentation. The chief had requested this, and I understand Mr. Bay, you were very instrumental in getting this done for us. I appreciate that once again.
Thank you.
And chief, go right ahead.
Good evening, everybody. We have representatives from EMA here with us this
evening. Council President related, Gunther Day got this grant off the ground. What it enables is it provides, one, prepare the town residents for storm-related emergencies. Gunther first started the grant application, it awarded $2,500 to the town to use for storm-related emergencies. Weather radios were already purchased, lightning detectors were purchased, and whatever remaining money is identified, probably through the next MMA director, we'll be able to spend that to.
The radios came, the weather radios and the lighting detectors came for free from REMA.
Right, okay, so those were in addition, so the $2,500. So we can buy more additional weather radios and lots of different groups, agencies, whatever, lightning detectors. Today we have Stephen Conrad and Anna Swenson put a presentation together to just explain to you guys what Storm Ready is and how it can help in the community. So Stephen and Anna.
Thank you very much, Chief. My name is Stephen Kennard. I'm the State Exercise Officer at Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency. I've been with them for over 7 years. What we're here today to talk about is to go over the program of what it is, as well as the weather threats that face the community. As part of the program, it goes through how your community is able to receive information from the National Weather Service, then take that information and monitor it during the length of a storm or a potential hazard that you face. And then the final piece is to send notifications out to the community in case there's a warning that needs to take action immediately. My coordinator here, Anna, just joined on to us a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, my name's Anna Swenson. I came from New Hampshire Emergency Management Agency, and when I finished up my master's degree, I made the trip back down to Rhode Island as I did my undergrad down at Roger Williams. So I'm very excited to be back and working with all of you.
The basic agenda we have is just going to go quickly through some emergency management pieces and how that interchanges into this National Weather Service program. What this does is provide a recognition for the community to state that your powers that be, as well as the police chief and fire chiefs, are working to make sure that the weather hazards are incorporated into their plans through it. What we have currently are 29 of our 39 communities throughout the state are already Storm Ready recognized. So we're closing out this program this month, and hopefully by next month, the end of the year, we're going to have all of the communities as well as the emergency management directors with the governor for a PR campaign down at the State House. We're trying to be the first state that is storm ready at the municipal level. As most of you know, we're not a county government run state, but most of the country is. So that's the level of depth that it goes down to the notifications to the public. So they don't make sure that every community within the county has those steps taken. So that's a little bit different of what Rhode Island does have. As most of you are aware, we've had a very active season in the last decade for storms to this state. Some of the main hazards we face up here are flash flooding. So that's some of the natural disasters that occur. In 2010 as well as 2005, prior to that, we had massive flooding in the state. I know a couple of our mitigation projects were up here to fix some of the culverts, as well as ensure that those products are built to last, not just fall out the next storm. That's definitely something our current director is ensuring that all of our monies, mitigation as well as this grant, the preparedness grant, goes to ensure that we are solidifying our communities before we solidify up, to ensure that our population can sustain ourselves. Some of the other technological hazards that we faced was a blackout back in 2003. I'm not sure if most of you are aware. That one had come across the country from the Midwest. We actually had an individual that was on this end of the grid that had conveniently shifted us onto a backup generation to just run their normal powers as the surge came through. So we didn't lose any power. Well, in the map you can see that entire corner is the Northeast. So that was one of the pieces that we were prepared for. In the worst case, it's out. As you all know, the wind blows and power goes out. So it doesn't always happen as a quick piece. The last type of a disaster are human caused. So these are where people just want to do harm. Sometimes it's a chemical or bomb threat that occurs. Similar to today downtown we saw, there are active shooter events or active threats go on. These can occur anywhere. Most of them are occurring in workplaces or areas of education. So what we like to do is just ensure that everybody has the basic response pieces. When anything happens, we always try to leave the area of danger. So run. In the worst case, you can't get out immediately, try to hide yourself, barricade between a piece. And of course, the last piece, only as a last resort, is to fight for your life. So it's run, hide, and fight. Those are the three things that can really assist you in that type of a life-threatening situation. Now I'm going to have Anna go through some of the winter storm preparedness piece.
Great. So a lot of times with some winter weather-related problems, we think we're prepared and then we don't think we're prepared, and sometimes things happen unexpectedly. So we just wanted to go over a few brief things with you to talk to you about how you can better prepare yourself and your family. So starting with winter storms, the two biggest things that you can prepare: your house itself and your car, because you never know with snow when it's going to drop, or when, well, we hope to know when it drops, but when it could be worse than expected. So things to have in your car: blankets and ice scrapers, shovels, phone chargers, things, and food if you can. Just have them in your trunk. I know in my car I tuck them away. I have a bag and I just forget about it until I will probably need it sometime. And then things for your home. You always want to have an emergency kit that you can have stocked away in your house. You can change it out yearly, you can change, or every 6 months. A lot of times people will change it out every time you set your clocks a different direction. You can go in and check when your food is expired. Having things in there, like things to also entertain your children with board games. We say a gallon of water per person per day in your emergency kits. Having your candles in case the food goes out. Having a shovel as well for the winter preparedness, and just being able to have those things ready where it takes a small amount of time, and then once something does happen, we're not scrambling at the grocery store with empty shelves like we see very frequently, unfortunately. And you have the water, you have the supplies, and then you just remember to keep things up to date. So on the opposite spectrum, we have extreme heat preparedness. We hear it, unfortunately, every summer that children and animals do get left in cars during extreme heat, and how we feel also how hot your cars can heat up. So just keeping those simple techniques in mind, and having, knowing what your car is capable of and the heat that is there, always checking in your vehicle, and always never keep your children in the car, of course. Also, even though it doesn't seem sunny out, always having sunblock on if it's sunny, because we don't know the dangers sometimes, we don't understand. And then just small things like covering windows when you leave for the day, if you know it's going to be a hot day, and just being proactive. Keep an eye on the weather. We know when it's going to rain because we know when it's going to snow. We don't always look to see what the heat's going to be. So just keeping in mind those small little factors that we never think of necessarily, and being proactive is the best thing that we can do. And then the last part I'm going to talk about is hurricane preparedness. And although a hurricane might not exactly affect you here, we do worry about flash flooding, and there still is the possibility that you might need to leave your home if that occurs. So again, be proactive, gather information if you can, understand what your risks are, which Stephen will go into soon to talk about. Determine what you're going to do if something like this were to happen. Are you going to stay in your house? Are you going to leave? Are you going to go to another place? And then make sure if you're staying in your home, make sure that your home is equipped with that emergency kit. And then constantly try to practice your emergency kit plan and your family emergency plan to make sure you know what will happen, and then test your children and make it something that you can turn into a fun game that's not necessarily fun but in the situation, but something that you can work with them so that they understand what to do as well.
And that's one of the reasons we provided lightning detectors to every community throughout the state, because we value our lives that we have here. And lightning safety is one of the undersold hazards that's normally discussed from severe thunderstorms, as well as many of the other hazards. When you're indoors, the main piece you really want to stay is away from any type of metal structure. So that's some of the plumbing from outside. Some of the older buildings have some of that pieces. Also with windows and doors. The other piece, if you're outside, it used to be you stay low, so then you're not the tallest object in the area. That actually has nothing to do with it. It's very much about the electricity, the electrons, the neurons, all of that piecings really is how the electricity works. Just because you have a lightning rod near you doesn't mean it will strike that. So that's the one piece with those detectors. They work up to 40 miles. So what it does is at 40 miles, 20, 15, and then 2, it goes through a different alert piece. So we provide them to put into schools, some of the parks and rec departments, as well as for the staffers. So if you have any linesmen or any crews that are out, maybe having them if it's going to be in season, just because it's good to know to take cover when needed. All right, so the rest of the piece we're just going to do through because that's technology for y'all. What we had for it, all right, so the major flood risks that we have up in this area are in flash flooding. So it's really knowing where your areas are around you and to know those concerning pieces. Flash flooding occurs upstream from you a lot of times, so it might not have rained right near you. for the effects. In Hurricane Irene in 2011, that was one of the pieces we saw a lot of power outages here, as well as trees down throughout the state. What that did was take a lot of time for the recovery to happen. So that's why we really ask folks to be proactive, to ensure that we're taking care of not only ourselves, but our families, and then ultimately our community. Working together and using the emergency management director as a focal point assists in the whole workings together, because then if there's something needed here in the community, you can work with the surrounding communities, or you can notify the state, and we can then come in and assist with that. The Storm Ready program, once this is finalized, what we have, as the chief had mentioned, is a $2,500 grant, no match from the federal piece, reimbursable. So what we're looking to do in the town, I know the chief has come up with some good ideas, and your new emergency management director can take that forward as well, is to provide a weather station for town. They're about $800, so that's part of the piece, as well as taking a look at the other weather radios and lightning detectors to disperse throughout the departments to ensure that you have a good coverage of the information used. Another system is Code Red that we have. I know that's a familiar piece as well that we use for notifications. By all means, register onto that. Get familiar with it and get familiar with those notifications. Yes, you might receive them for every severe weather storm we have, but the severe thunderstorms can pack a little bit more, like we mentioned, of the lightning hazards. That's what could really affect people out there. We wanted to also give an opportunity, if you guys had any questions in regards to the hazards or threats, for whether that you would like to ask or things with the chief. But we just wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity to come up and provide some of the hazards discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on, we have a safety award presentation. Again, Chief.
The AAA Traffic Safety Hero Award is given to each community who submits an applicant. Austin Cole has been our applicant this 2015, and this is the 2016 application. So he met the criteria. The awards banquet we were in, when we go to the awards banquet, Officer Cole has led the department in the last 3 years, 2014, 15, 16, and currently leads the department in DUI-related arrests, and again is way at the top as far as traffic summons, all 3 of his years since he's started in 2014. So again, Officer Cole has led the department in DUI-related arrests for 2014, 15, 16. His dedication and commitment to alcohol-related issues also merited his selection, and he was granted that school to attend drug recognition expert school this year. Officer Cole also wrote a total of 325 traffic citations for the 2016 year. So again, Officer Cole is a 2016 Traffic Safety Hero Award for the town of Gloucester.
Congratulations, Cole.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to the life-saving award presentation. Chief.
And again, our lucky officer is again, this originated in September 23rd. Gloucester Dispatch received a 911 call of a victim who was possibly overdosed. Officer Cole, another officer at Foster EMS, was dispatched. Upon Officer Cole's arrival, he found an unresponsive person. Quickly determined that the person overdosed on heroin. Officer Cole, the department, our officers are equipped with Narcan. He was able to administer a life-saving dosage. The person quickly regained consciousness and hopefully is leading a productive life. So again, with that, Officer Cole is being awarded the life-saving award. And again, the narrative on the bottom, and again, this award is presented to Officer Cole for his actions on September 23rd, 2017, with his dispatch for a reported victim with overdose. Officer Cole Upon arrival, unresponsive female observed in the front seat of a vehicle, learned the victim had overdosed on heroin. Officer Cole administered his department-issued Narcan to the victim, who regained consciousness. Officer Cole's actions were instrumental in saving the woman's life. Life-saving were presented to Officer Cole, and also with that, through our current, our last contract, our officers are able to wear awards now most of the time. So he's also been awarded the life-saving ribbon award.
I would certainly say we're lucky to have Cole on force. Thank you.
And all over.
Yes, maybe. So, the next item is a storm report update, and I had asked Mr. Clocken and the chief to summarize what was going on during this storm and where we stand. So, Mr. Clocken?
Sure, I wrote up for you what the two crews of two men did that night, state roads, town roads. This afternoon, myself, Walt May, Chief Deal, Chief Gordy Brayton, and Representative Chippendale met. And there's an agenda there that talks about some of the items, because Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity, and doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's National Grid. The problem that we have is the slow response in Foster, and it's illustrated through many people that their response was inadequate. It's been inadequate. One of the members said same song and dance for the last 30 years. It just keeps repeating itself. And all I'll do in summarization is that I think it's time that pressure is put on the PUC and National Grid. And it's through the police chiefs, it's through the fire chiefs, it's through town councils to put a resolution in. You put in resolutions for different things, is to investigate them. On the news clips, they were talking about, I think it was Representative Serpa from West Warwick and Coventry, who said they were going to do an oversight committee to look into what exactly happened. It's like they get a free ride every single storm. And Foster, as the chief had pointed out on Channel 12, I think embarrassed them to actually send us a crew on Monday night to open up some of our roads that some residents wouldn't have been able to get out of. So the severity of the storm, quite frankly, maybe 40 trees, I didn't count them up, but it wasn't like trees down everywhere. So the response time, took a long time for everyone to get their power back. And, I had power, so it really wasn't a concern for me. Anyone who had power got it back quickly, it's not a concern, but what happens when we have an ice storm and you're in the middle of winter and there's no heat? I don't think National Grid really gets it, and I think I would ask this council to make a resolution, even tonight, for someone to write it up, to give the authorization, because you don't meet for a month, and then it kind of goes away. There's all steam coming up now from people, but it kind of slowly goes away, because it's not fresh on anyone's mind until the next storm, and then it happens again. And you're out of power, you have to throw things away, complete waste of money for so many people, and some people won't even be able to get out of their homes. You're talking, it's not inconceivable for an ice storm to happen in the next month or two. And what's National Grid's response? The paper said they had 25 crews, they had 50 men, 25 crews and 17 contractors. That's why it was a slow response. Where were they? Maybe they were helping people in Florida. Maybe they were in Texas. Maybe they are in Puerto Rico. But someone should ask them questions. So I'm just asking this council to put a resolution for someone to write up, asking for the oversight committee in the State House to ask the tough questions of National Grid. Someone has to do it. And I think it just has to start, maybe in this small town, to hold them accountable. So that's what I'm asking the council to do. You can read like different things. There's some solutions. Yes, it's very dangerous to take trees off of wires, and that's what you're left with after a storm like that. Because our crews clear the roads that they can, they open up, but if there's a tree on wires, National Grid 3 weeks ago in a Public Works Association meeting said absolutely not, that we are not to take them off. It is very dangerous to do when you have to take wires off. But I think that part of the solution in here is to have people trained, because when we have an ice storm, the crews coming in this time from South Carolina, taking them 22 hours to get here, and it's cold outside, 22 hours and 30 degrees. Houses get cold very quick when people can't get out, and they're saying we can't touch the wires. Well, people take matters into their own hand, and we should be trained, DPW possibly, National Guard, whatever it takes, but it's National Grid in that. They have been in that for a long time. It's simple. They have PR people that are professionals. They are professionals. And it all goes away after a couple of days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. People forget about it now. Who's talking about it? Any politicians on the news? No. But they were that night saying, oh, we're going to hold them accountable. Well, I think this town council can stop the ball rolling and holding them accountable by passing a resolution tonight to send to the Oversight Committee to look into the National Grid.
Thank you.
Are all the roads cleared now? Is everything all cleaned up?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
If I could just make one comment.
Well, there's some brush to be chipped, but the roads are all open.
I do want to thank the DPW department and the men that work there, and also the many volunteers that assisted with keeping the fire stations open for water, etc., cutting down trees. We had some good Samaritans that did some work unbeknownst to us, but then found out about it, so we certainly appreciate it and want to thank the DPW department. I will say I received several emails upset with National Grid for praising the DPW, that they saw them out there and cutting and clearing for roads to be opened. So I appreciate that. Chief, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I agree. Again, we faced a small storm, as of Friday when we all left, we were getting the notifications, EMA was getting notifications that it was, again, I think it was 35-mile-an-hour storm winds, and it quickly progressed Sunday night. By, I think, 2:30 in the morning, the entire town of Foster was without power. I think it was well over 150,000 people throughout Rhode Island. Again, I woke up, I had power, but we came into the station early in the morning, the Foster Police Station, and we were trying to rectify that situation. Half the police department didn't have power, generator power, so we're rectifying that. But again, it goes back to, and I said it on Channel 12, I've said it in other forums, the town of Foster gets forgotten. Whether it be the snow plowing in the wintertime or this last storm with National Grid. The town of Foster gets forgotten, it needs to be prepared. The residents need to prepare. Our trees are as high as they've ever been, probably going back to the colonial times. 2-3 years ago, they did survey after survey of the hazardous trees within the town. Most of those trees are still standing. Some of them came down and created problems. As of Wednesday night, all the roads were open. Working with Director Clark and Bob Clark. Throughout the day, Monday, we were in contact with National Grid and the representatives, and as I call them, call her the Mercedes driving that came out to Foster. And again, National Grid needs to be put on notice either through that resolution, through the news, which it basically has disappeared. But National Grid, in my mind, put residents, our good Samaritans, residents in danger when they electrified lines that were down in the ground. There was primary lines, secondary lines that were on the ground, and they, Chief, we assessment teams and our sweep teams and our strike teams have been through there. And I'm like, well, you're mistaken. And again, you know, throughout the day, we tried to get them out there. You know, so it took a promise from me that I was gonna call, you know, more news channels. And again, they re-verified that all these lines were down on the ground and are not on the ground when they energized whoever lived in the north. I guess it was Tuesday, northern part of town, that they re-energized those lines. And, you know, I sent them a video of a hot stick or whatever it was, you know, showing that the lines on the ground were live. You know, and within 30 minutes, the executive driving the Mercedes was on a tour with me through our town. And again, you know, their resources, they mobilized a strike team from, was it Cumberland?
Pawtucket to Cumberland to Foster was their route.
And then they were doing that. So, you know, once that strike team came into town, I didn't leave their side until the roads were open. And again, it was 4 issues, you know, and that caused our school to reopen back up. But again, you know, through the communities, the residents, our electric bills aren't going down. They're here to stay. But again, they need to be put on notice. And again, I know they probably had crews in Texas, Florida, you know, Puerto Rico, and you know, and we're caught unprepared. But again, you know, through EMA, through the town, through, you know, just education, the town residents, you know, what we can learn from this is the town residents need to prepare for themselves, because there's a bigger storm coming, and you know, and you need to be prepared.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Beck.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. And the problem is also, every resident needs to phone National Grid. It was shown 10 houses. 10 residents don't have power. What was shown on the map, and this is what they're working by. They're working by a computer-generated map, and when it shows only 10 residents, houses here without power, it's only for them 10 houses. If everybody phones in and shows 180 dwellings out of power, it's a totally different animal for them. And this is why they say, oh, Cranston has so and so many houses, and so and so many houses. This is where they go at first, where they have the most residents out of power and connected. This is how National Grid is working. I was a few meetings and I spoke about this, and I said, when I am as an EMA director, I phoned in and said, Foster has no power. Makes no difference. Our computer says only the amount of houses, and this is where we're going from. And this is one of the problems what National Grid has. And I addressed it a couple of meetings with them. This is how the system is working is not correct. They have to change the system. They should have, in areas like us, at least one tree crew on standby, that they can cut out the trees. Have a line crew and a tree crew. Line is dead, cut the trees off. This should be done. And this should be done then with a new emergency manager.
Thank you.
And I spoke about this a couple of times already.
Thank you. Moving on, we have the private roads maintenance, and Mr. Rogers, you requested this to be.
Yeah, the reason why I put this on is multiple times over the years, I've had the liaison for the DPW, so when some things come up, I get a phone call from the DPW director, and several times, and just recently again, it's been brought up on certain issues that really, they are private roads, and they're not on the list of what was resolved in '89 and in '99, and I've been asked, what do you want to do? Would say a tree down, or they've already met gravel twice and the road got washed out. And I don't have the authority as one council member to instruct what I believe the DPW to go beyond what was agreed on resolution. So it's happened a few times. So I'm coming to the council because I can't give you singular direction. What would the council like to do with these roads? I've got a couple suggestions. Because what I understand, some people don't realize they're actually private roads, and how they came about and how we maintain them. So I just brought it, I'm bringing it to the council for direction, whoever is the liaison to the DPW. In the past, other councils may have, through one singular person, instructed their DPW director to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know for sure, but I don't think I have the authority to instruct a DPW director to go beyond what the commitment from the town is on private roads, and it kind of put me in a quagmire, so I'm bringing it to the council.
Would you like to, just so everyone's on
Yeah.
the same page, what the
Okay.
latest resolution is?
All right, so there were two resolutions, but the latest resolution just added a couple more roads by simply adding it. So in 19, I believe, November 4th, in 1999, a resolution reads, whereas there are certain roads within the town of Forster for which a claim has been made that they have been used for a period of more than 20 years by the public and have therefore become public highways within the mention of section 24-2-1 of the general laws of the state of Rhode Island. And whereas the town council has not voted to accept these roads and declare the same as town highways as provided through chapter 24-2-2 of the general laws. And whereas the town has from time to time done some maintenance work on these roads, though not obligated to do so. And whereas the town council desires to establish a policy for maintenance of these roads without accepting them as town highways. Therefore, be it resolved that the roads listed below will be maintained by the Public Works Department over their current established widths and lengths in the manner and to extent of maintenance set forth by the town council. 1. Rounds Lane, 0.3 miles. 2. Spears Path, 0.55 miles. 3. Pine Tree Road, 0.50 miles. Simula's Driveway, 0.2 miles. Stony Brook Road, 0.1 mile. And Oak Hill Road, 0.1 mile. Extent of the maintenance shall be plowing, sanding, and grading not to exceed twice a year, and gravel at the discretion of the Public Works as needed. However, not to extend 30 yards per road per year. The town council shall not assume any liability for any persons traveling on the aforementioned roads and accepts no other responsibility expressed or implied except as contained herein. Passed and adopted this day, 4th day of November, 1999, and it was signed by the council at that time. So, there are a couple of my concerns, but I don't know, again, on those issues that I brought forward, some direction as a DPW liaison when things arise beyond the list that have happened time and time again.
Do you have an example for us?
For example, because there's a tree down. I've got pictures of trees hanging down by the road. That's specifically not in on the list here. And sometimes them trees may be out of the realm of something that we can actually handle in-house, and we may have to pay a private contractor to come and remove what's being called dangerous trees. Again, I cannot give the authority when that phone call is made to me. So that's one example. Another example is there are times where we've had multiple storms during the year and we've got washouts, and we have already met our commitment on these roads, and we've provided the 30 yards of gravel, and we've graded it twice, and then we get a late storm, and we're busy doing all the other town roads, and the Paul comes in and says, hey, my road is washed out, I have a problem, my car is bottoming out, and we've already met the commitment. Do we bush hog and mow the sides of the roads back? That was another question. So those are some examples that above and beyond the commitment that was put in by prior councils. Now, I may be able to help on some of them with an idea. For example, I believe there's some confusion on some people not understanding that they are private roads. So we may be able to, at this point, send a letter out, a registered letter that will notify all the current landowners, and also, what I think might be a good idea is adding a letter to the deeds that specifically know when these people buy this, they understand what commitment they're getting into it. It is a private road, and this is what the town provides on that private road. That may help on a sales purchase thing when people move in and just assume it's a town road. On the issue of some of these roads, 30 yards would probably be more than enough. but there are two that exceed a half a mile or more. And I talked to one tonight, I actually saw it at the gas station, and what happens on a situation like that is, many times they would really need more than 30 yards. What we're doing is, by going just to that point, and I'm not advocating more, but maybe if they're aware, when we put trucks down those roads in the winter, and they're inadequately maintained with, you have rocks sticking up, we're actually causing damage to our equipment, plowing roads that shouldn't be plowed, because it's doing damage to the taxpayers' vehicles. So for example, just a suggestion, on these roads, we may be able to notify the residents that we're going to be grading the road on, let's say, July 1st. And the DPW director says you definitely need the 30 yards, but, 100 yards would be better and would help us. And while we're grading the road, if they want to get together and provide funds and have the gravel delivered, while we're grading the road, we'll grade it through. It helps us and it helps them. So the road is better conditioned when we're actually plowing and sanding it to our equipment, and we're not destroying our equipment trying to do it. So those are just suggestions. That goes above and beyond what my initial point was, as some direction when these questions are asked of me as the liaison, and not being, I certainly don't have the authority to give him an answer.
Would you like to make a motion?
No, I don't know, I just brought this up to something. I don't usually have an answer on some things, but. Yeah. So here is one suggestion. Maybe we can put a committee together, maybe some of the residents of that road may have some fantastic ideas to help us. And the DPW director can also help, because he has to deal with it most of the time, because he's getting the phone calls. So maybe a committee would help. So that would be my suggestion. I would like to be on that committee. So maybe I'll start off at that point to get the ball rolling. I'd like to make a motion to create a committee of council member, the DPW director. What are the suggestions you think? I mean, I would definitely put it up to all residents that are on those roads. Suggestions.
I think you should have at least one resident from each one of the roads.
You may not get one resident from each one of the roads, but I will.
So the motion would be one council member, DPW director, and one resident if they chose to sit from, that would be 6 residents, so that would be a committee of what, 8?
So the committee would be, as explained from the road, if possible, to a committee of up to 8. So that would be my motion.
Second.
Discussion we
I
had.
have a question. I guess I'm under misapprehension, but I thought when private roads were done, that they had to do them to a certain specification, and then I thought that, I thought eventually that we had to take them over and maintain them because of that.
You are correct, to some extent. If the town were to take these over to meet the standards of state highways, it would entail actually, possibly, because widths are narrow, we would need a turnaround for trucks at the end. It would probably most likely involve widening the road and maybe taking some property by eminent domain to meet the standards of a public highway.
Mr. Torchy, you had some information on that, if we were going to take over the road. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, one of the concerns, and you're not the only town that faces this. It's faced in my town, West Greenwich, South Kingston, Bristol. Everyone struggles with this, and because it's something that's been in effect for many, many years. And one of the things you got to worry about if you take these roads, besides bringing them up to standards that you need as far as whatever the dimensions and widths are, whether you're going to asphalt them, is the other thing is once you open them up to accept them as a town road, you open it up to development, right? So if you, for instance, on those roads right now, there's possibility you can't put any more homes on there, but if there's enough frontage, what you're doing is once you take them over as a town road, you're encouraging development on them. So that's something you need to think about, because right now they're private roads, and I guess whatever development's on there, it's on there, and that's it. So once you open them up and you accept that, you're accepting a lot, right? You're accepting bringing them up to whatever the standards are, which you probably don't have the money for, as well as accepting that you can actually put more houses on the roads.
So the citizens, the private citizens own the land,
So very good.
so they could, what you're saying, they could sell it off.
Well, they could, they can now, but if you accept it as a town road, then you're looking
Then
at.
they could sell it.
Right.
For example, the 300-foot, 4.75 acres, if you don't have it currently on, I'm just gonna take an example, Pine Tree Road. It's not accepted to cut a 5-acre lot off on Pine Tree Road if you don't have 300, it's not a town or state road. Our zoning rules dictate to cut a substandard, to cut a lot, you must have 300 feet
Right.
on a town or state road. It's not a town or state road, so exactly what he's saying is they could sell it and make multiple house lots in there. What's there is pre-existing non-conforming.
Yes, but I have one more. When when I'm reading this and it says we don't have any liability, it doesn't, that's kind of like a contradiction of terms to me, because we're assuming some, because we're maintaining it to a point.
I don't think, first of all, if there's, let's look at it two ways. If there's a car accident, it's no liability any more than a car accident right out in front of this building.
That's what I
Right.
wondered.
So the only thing, a pothole, there's a public duty doctrine in Rhode Island that if you're unaware of the pothole, you're not responsible for it. Most towns in the state have ordinances or state statute that the town is, and I haven't looked at yours, but because this just came up just now, but they don't pay any more than $300 or $400 for any type of a pothole like that. So being on a private road, no. To me, you're not going to have that type of liability, because if it's a car accident, it's nothing to do with the town to begin with. So that's something that, in our opinion, you're not going to have to worry about on that. Now, whether or not the trust would cover something like that, that's something that we have not discussed with the trust due to the fact that this is just before us tonight. The thing is that I guess the argument could be made that this has been going on for more than 20 years. So obviously the trust knows statewide that this stuff goes on, and not, not sticking their heads in the sand on it. However, I don't think, in asking around recently, the last couple of days, that there's been no claim that ever made in this town for anything on those roads that I'm aware of, nor so in our town. Because it's so small. It's not like you have 10 miles and it's drag racing on it. It's small enough where it's just the people living there.
Chief?
Yeah, just to expand on the importance that, about the authorization needed because of the private roads. When you mentioned, the trees or the DPW not having the equipment to take down those trees, those trees are left there. It doesn't create a public safety hazard, blocking in roads. As far as I know, all the roads are dead ends. So again, that equipment and who has the authorization if more equipment is needed, to remove those trees.
This is right.
What about the liability as far as emergency services? If the road becomes impassable, and an ambulance can't get down, a fire truck can't get down,
That would be related, just the same thing. I'll take it, for example, my village driveway could be a half a mile long. If there's a tree across it, it's not the town's responsibility to just maintain it, but if we're going down that, all the trucks have chainsaws and stuff, we address the situation in the emergency and get where we need to get. So if there was a tree down across Frank Dillon's driveway, it would be removed as we mentioned. There's many times when I'm plowing in the middle of the winter and I'll hear my pager go off for a driveway, for example, I can remember clearly on Kennedy Road for an elderly person who needed assistance and had the fire and the rescue coming. I actually immediately go there and as a citizen and part of the EMS service, plow the driveway up and make a turnaround before the rescue shows up and get on the radio and let them know they can actually force the driveway. There's access to turn around with the rescue. So that's how we operate out here. Just like anything else, a private road is a private road. Just like a tree down Mike Dillon's, he has a private right of way to his property off of 94.
The other thing is that you're setting forth what you're gonna take care of. This isn't open-ended. It's not like we're gonna take care of the roads. This is like you're telling exactly, so there are still private driveways. So if Mike Dillon has a tree down his driveway, then that's his responsibility to get his family out there and take care of it. Can't wait for the town to come and do that, right? I mean, the town is delivering what they're doing on these roads.
And that being said, Mr. Rogers, I would think that if a DPW director does ask you, they should have a copy of this and be aware of this, and that's what they do.
Right, and I agree with you, and I agree with that response, and that's basically how we held it, but again, I think we have a problem with the not really a problem, some people don't think that it is a private road, and I think one of those solutions to help rectify that was sending registered, maybe the committee would
I
take
do
that.
like that.
And also putting this actually on the property deed, so for the sake of a better word, buyer beware, they're aware at the purchase and sales agreement. What, yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, put signs up, private way.
No, I meant on their deeds.
Yeah, fine, yeah, that can be part of that, that way they're aware. In fact, the realtors actually have an obligation to notify them, and I don't think the realtors even realize that it is a private road. So I think by putting it on the deed, it will be part of the documentation. And it's not we're putting something on that's not true, if it can be done, I believe it can, it would help the process, because I really can understand why people are moving on these roads. I mean, I've been here 50 years, so I know which ones are private. As a matter of fact, I won't go there, but as a matter of fact, there are some people that just assume it's a town road, because I would too, moving into town and seeing the grader and seeing the town plowing and sanding it, I would assume it's a town road, but in reality, it's not.
I do like both those suggestions, Mr. Rogers. Mrs. Hart.
For clarification, is there a legal definition of a private road as opposed to a long driveway? Because I've heard one of the things is, I mean, there are some houses who, they're single houses, and they have an incredibly long driveway. That's not a private road.
And anything that's not a public road is a private, like even like a Walmart parking lot, that's private property. As an example, whoever been to center of New England, that's a private road. Those roads have not been accepted by either the town of Coventry, East Grange, or West Grange. So that's a private road that have to be plowed by, and that's why the roads are a mess in there. But that's why, you know, with the chief here, a lot of times, you know, the police are hesitant to go into like a Stop and Shop parking lot. They don't want to go into those and have to do a car accident, but they do. So anything that's not, in my opinion, anything that's not a town road is a private driveway or a private road. It doesn't matter the length of it. So it's just a driveway.
Could this, I mean, you may have, you know, a tremendous number of people now leaping up and saying, hey, you know, I've got a long driveway.
Yeah.
I want to put my car, I want mine on that list. You are doing this for these other people. Why aren't you doing it for me?
Well, I'll
I'm just trying to figure out how this was done.
Well, I'll give you an example. I was actually on one today. The person had to bury a horse, and he had me come down and bury the horse. It's actually off of Howard Hill Road. And the way I read the first whereas, there's a certain road within the town force that has been made, that they've been used as a period of more than 20 years by the public, and have therefore become public highways. The one I was on was about a half mile long, maybe a little less, within the middle of all of these. And there'd been a doctor who's been operating his doctor's office on that property since he got his medical license, Copperberg. So I actually had to wait for patients to come out, and while I was there, patients were coming in. And he operates 4 to 5 days a week for the last 20 or 30 years. And that is being used as a public road. So the argument can be made for him. So where do you stop that?
I'm not so sure that's a public road though. I mean, and that's not a debate.
It's being, well, it's no different than Simula's Drive.
And that's another thing, but.
Or any of them, Spears Path, yeah.
I'm just.
There's no, the Spears Path is, what's that?
We started out being driveways.
All of these start out exactly the same way. So my argument is,
Well,
you know, I don't want this to go any more than it is. I'm not advocating to get away from what we've got. I would never advocate to take more on. My two concerns are, what do we do, make it clear. I do have a concern on if these roads are properly maintained, and I'm not advocating we go beyond what we have here, but there's a good possibility that we're doing damage to our taxpayers' equipment by, there are some driveways I refuse to plow because they damage my truck. And I'll tell them that. You fix your driveway, I'll be glad to plow your driveway. If these get into that condition, sometimes 30 yards a year on a half a mile road is, with multiple storms, is putting our equipment at risk, and I don't believe we should be putting our taxpayers' hard-paid equipment at risk, because, but I'm asking maybe that residents can help out, and we can work together for a common solution.
So there has been a motion made. It is to form a committee to review this resolution and where to move forward. The committee consisting of 1 council member, the DPW director, and 6 citizens from the roads that are listed currently on this current resolution. It has been seconded. Any further discussion? I saw someone back there. I didn't have your hand raised, ma'am.
I just wanted to go back to the 20 years that if the road was used.
Could you just state your name and address, please?
Gail Servat,
Okay.
Pine Tree.
Okay,
That
thank you.
road's been used by the public and with the help of the state. We live down there by the state fishing area. That's been there 100 years. I know for a fact. I grew up there. The people that it's been in the family for all these years. And again, as someone up there said, you see the plows coming down and everything. You think it's a town road, and they've been doing that for 73 years that we've got on paper. And it's not just for us, who, by the way, have our own little private driveways off of that. But that was for people to go fishing. So it was very public.
I'd like to clarify that. That other side of that bridge, even when the bridge was up, the town, to my knowledge, never maintained or plowed or sanded. As a matter of fact, there used to be a elementary school principal that lived right across from the fishing hole on that side off of Windsor Road, that I would literally have to plow her driveway, but because the town didn't plow or sand and maintain that, I had to plow the entire end of Pine Tree Road off of Windsor to get to her driveway. The town has never maintained, plowed or sanded.
Not past that Pine Tree.
Correct, and there are multiple houses and residents on that side that don't get any maintenance from the town. And it is used as a public throughway, but the town has never maintained that end of the road. They've only maintained the part of 94, and up in 1999, they added the 2 short pieces off that were additional on that road that I read on the resolution. So.
Did you have a question, Mr. Bailey?
I have only a question. How, and if the town actually up with this, does they maintaining private roads or driveways? How is this happened?
How is it accepted? There was a resolution by former council in 1999.
But you may not have
Originally, it was 89 and added more in 99.
Why we not make a new resolution? Because we don't do it anymore as a town council. Says the taxpayer money is a private road. It's a private road, it's a private driveway. It's like my driveway, Mr. Dillon's driveway, and the other party's driveway here in town. Is it a half mile long, a mile long, or 300 feet?
Thank you.
Well, I have a question, I just want to say, I totally don't understand why this is even implemented, although I have an idea. It's a.
We're feeling the same as Mr. Day. So, yeah. Yes. Yes, Mr. Day.
Who owns it?
I'm sorry, what?
Who owns them?
Who owns the roads?
Private road, I mean, somebody owns it.
The right of way.
Right-of-way.
Whoever owns
All the
property on that
residents.
road is the owner collectively.
So each house has a right of way in front of it, and then each individual house? Since it's theirs then, if it's just right of way? I mean, if I have a right of way through my property, I would still be paying taxes on it. Somebody paying taxes on my roads?
Right.
That would make them the owners.
And believe it or not, none of us own that.
Yes, you do.
It was another party.
They didn't need the right of way.
They do own it.
Mr.
That
Carey.
gave the town the right of way to us.
I'll try to clarify. I mean, I live off of Pine Tree in Oakville.
And basically, this goes way, way back. I mean, my grandparents bought the house that I lived in the early 60s. It was a summer place, they retired, they made it a year-round home. I went there as a kid for the summer, and we went there every weekend. My parents religiously visited every Sunday. And the road was always plowed. My grandfather had a station wagon, I mean, he had four-wheel drive. I mean, it was a cart road when we first lived there, when they first lived there. In the early 70s, the town was plowing the road and they were worried, as you are with the equipment. So they approached the major property owner, Mr. Belcher, to ask him to sign the right-of-way, because the majority is on his property, over to the town. Mr. Belcher at the time didn't feel it was in his best interest, so he refused. The town took it upon themselves to get permission from Mr. Belcher to improve the road so they can plow it. So in the early 70s, they went in there, they took a cart path, they widened it, they graded it, and made it so they could take their trucks up there without damaging it. And that's how Pine Tree Road became maintained by the town. Now, what the resolution was, in 1989, the planning board sent out letters by request of the council at the time to revisit or try to work out some kind of a policy. There was a public hearing with the planning board at the time. I think, who was that? I can't remember who it was. Stephen Fusco was the chairman. And he sent the letter. And so they went, after 89, when they had the public hearing, I guess it was 4 years before they finally came to an agreement between the residents of these roads. I can't speak for all the other roads, how they got first, maintained. But the town didn't want to take the road out as a town road, so they said, well, we'll maintain them. We'll plow your snow and we'll grade it twice a year in the gravel thing. And they've been doing that right along, and they've been cutting brush also and doing other things and pulling rocks up if they were hazardous to them. And the directors did what they wanted. Nobody told them what to do. They made their own decisions of what they were going to do on the road. And there's, but there is a history to it. I mean, I can't speak for the other 4 roads or 3 roads because I don't. But it is, it was kind of like, almost like a substandard lot of record. It was pre all these zoning ordinances about roads and stuff. But the town had taken this on their own because people were living there year round. And it was originally like a hunting camp. And like I said, I can only speak for the road that I live on. And I know it looks back, before Gordon was born, that road was there, and it was plowed by the town. And, they took it upon themselves to improve that road. So I think they have some responsibility there.
Just to add, like I said, I'm not advocating to stopping what we're doing. I certainly don't want to do any more than what's listed here, but every one of these roads has a story how the town takes it. We got one here that used to be the town small bus driver worked for the town. So the town went in and started plowing the scenic so she could pick up her kids. Every one has a story. It doesn't change anything we're talking about tonight. Was it right to do that? That's not for me to say. I didn't do it. I wouldn't have did it if I was back then. My point is this. I really don't think some of these roads are being done correctly. We shouldn't. Maybe the people that own the roads should step up to the plate and work with the town and help maintain them correctly so we don't destroy our equipment that the other taxpayers are paid for that are working on town-owned roads. That's all my point.
Can I tell you one more thing? We have done some work on that.
I'm not saying, but
No, I'm just letting you know, we have.
Thank you. We have had a motion made, it has been seconded. No further discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
Are we going to address the council member at this point, or are you going to wait?
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can do
With,
that.
thank you. Do we have a council member that would be interested in this?
I would like to be. involved, you know, I've got a little bit of knowledge on it.
I make a motion to put Gordon on the committee.
Second.
Discussion?
How are we gonna go out? Are we gonna send letters to the people on these roads to get a representative from them, or?
That would be.
That's up to the committee.
If there's more than one person in it.
It's a public meeting posted, so.
Okay, they can come, right?
Yes, absolutely.
They
Yeah,
should all,
just send out, probably send to the clerk, send out a letter just to those people.
They should all
don't
be
say one,
notified.
because nobody will come.
No, well, there's 6 members from the.
If we get
Yes,
it.
so I'm trying to address the council's questions first. 6 members from the 6 citizens. So
Maybe
we're looking at
each
one from each road, but if certainly they want to attend the meeting,
Well,
they
it should
certainly
be
can.
this, unless
It's
they're.
gonna be an open meeting.
Right, right, it would be an
It
open,
would be just like this.
okay, so it would just be similar to this. Yes,
That was going to be my question, because I'm Jane Cruz on Pine Tree Road, and there are 7 families that live down there.
Yep, we got it.
So, it would, you know, if everyone could go, and then if they wanted to pick someone.
we would most likely just appoint one person as a representative, and certainly all have, just like you did tonight, have the ability to.
How can you do that?
They would choose amongst
Yeah,
themselves.
it's an open meeting.
You'd be given,
Well, the motion was for 6 members.
okay.
Well, if representative from each road adding up to a amount of 6 if each one put forward. I mean, you don't want 6 people from Pine Tree
I
Road.
don't know actually how many people live on each road.
I don't know.
It's gonna be an open
Let's assume
meeting.
there's 6 on one road, so they have to decide amongst themselves, which one person they want to represent that. road.
Correct.
So that person would have
Get together
a
with your
say
neighbors.
of what they
Pick a person.
spend money on.
And then we would have a discussion again. Any further questions? Mrs. Dillon, you're on top of this one. Thank you. So, moving on.
You didn't vote, Denise.
Oh, thank you. We have a motion to appoint Mr. Rogers to the committee for the reviewing private road maintenance. It has been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, Mrs. Dillon. You have this on the agenda, the Boston Cane Award. Oh, okay. Okay, so in the past, we have had the cane, the Boston Cane Award. We approached, Mrs. Dillon approached the citizen who is the oldest citizen in town, and he would prefer not to have a cane. He would like to have a plaque, which he is going to place in his booth at Shady Acres. There is a news release that is in the Foster Home Journal regarding that, but the plaque itself says, in 1909, the Boston Post presented a gold-top cane to each of 700 selected towns in Rhode Island, Maine, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire to be used to recognize the vigor and longevity of the New England people. In keeping with this time-honored tradition, the Foster Town Council hereby recognizes William Hank Luther Jr. as the oldest citizen of Foster, Rhode Island. On this 9th day of November 2017, we award him the honorary title of holder of the Boston Cane Council, Boston Post Cane. Thank you. Foster Town Council, Denise Elder Franco, President, Chris Stone, Vice President, Gordon Rogers, Michael Dillon, and Cheryl Forbes. He will be presented this next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday at Shady Acres.
At Shady Acres, and there will be a cake if anybody would like to.
Could I just, a clarification, the cane itself is no longer given out
You're
because it was damaged by someone
Yes.
beating
And we looked
something.
we looked into getting a new cane representative of that, and he wanted to have.
They would have their choice, either a flag, or if they like a cane, who's why cane has it raised them, they would keep it, we wouldn't want it back. It's just
Sure. Yep, Mr. Rogers, go right
I would
ahead.
just like to read a paragraph, this paragraph that kind of gives you a little insight on who Mr. Luther is, who I've known my entire life.
Me
You
too.
see almost every day at Shady Acres.
Me too.
Yeah. As she said, on November 9, 2017, the Forster Town Council formally recognized Mr. William Henry Hank Luther as the oldest citizen of Forster. He is the 37th individual so to be honored. Mr. Luther was born on March of 1923 in a house on Howard Hill Road and has lived in Forster his entire life, except when he served in the military during World War II. He came home in 1946, shortly thereafter met his future wife, Barbara Salisbury, at the Mount Vernon Church. They were married 6 months later and were together for 61 years. Mr. Luther ran a sawmill in Forster with his brother George, who also worked as a custodian at Captain Isaac Payne School for 25 years. Retiring in 1986, many know him as Hank, which was a nickname given to him for playing baseball. He has 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And he goes on to say, in recognition of the status of the oldest citizen in Forster, the town council presented Mr. Luther with a plaque and so on. But I just wanted to let you know about Hank, and he's at Shady Acres at 12 o'clock and sits at the same booth. And right above that booth is an old picture of the Grange in Moosehead Valley. You can probably see a whole bunch of people in there. And he is actually one of those members, and that photo was taken when they all came back from World War II. So,
Thank you.
he's got some roots.
Mrs. Karen? Okay. Anyone else? There was no motion, no need for a motion. We're moving on to town council meeting. November 23rd is Thanksgiving. It would be our next meeting day.
I don't have a problem.
I make a motion, we don't meet.
So naturally, we will not be meeting, Mr. Rogers. But I didn't know whether you wanted to reschedule a meeting. The next meeting would be December 14th, which will be 4 weeks from tonight. What is the pleasure? What is the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion that we don't meet until the next meeting in December, and we give everybody a holiday.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Wow. Okay.
Still haven't voted yet.
Is that for discussion purposes only?
I'll probably be voting no, but I'm okay.
It's okay. So there has been a motion made. Let's have a discussion.
My discussion and my reasoning is we're going to be coming up,
Sorry.
we're going to be coming up to the budget, we're going to be meeting a lot more. So I think this is a nice segue into the holiday season.
So we'll go to what, December 14th?
December
Yes.
14th.
This is done commonly in the past, it's not.
I know,
It's not. But I did
We did it
think
last
4
year.
weeks is a long time. That being said, Mr. Stone, you had a question.
I just wanted to ask Kelly if she anticipated it included things that had to be in the next warrant.
Was it special?
She is special.
Nice job.
It's self-preservation. I want to meet.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience really want to meet? No? Okay.
Maybe I'll have a private road meeting that day.
Go ahead. No further discussion. The motion is to cancel the meeting on November 23rd and not meet again until December 14th. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Just said that to me.
Motion passes 4-1. Excuse me. Moving on. Ms. Russ, you had the trust. Go right ahead.
The trust sent us a draft policy of controlled substance and alcohol testing for employees in CND buildings. Basically covers our DPW department. It's guidelines that we've been following mostly because we've had already their draft from years before. So this, they requested us that we update this policy and have it adopted at the council level and forward it to them as soon as possible, preferably 2 months ago. So We finished it, we sent it to Joanna to review, she has no problem with it, and they're expecting our response shortly. Once it's adopted, I will give it to every member of the DPW department to read and sign the last page as requested by the trust.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that the town of Forster accept the controlled substance and alcohol testing program for the CMV drivers for the town of Forster recommended to local trust.
Second. Any further discussion? And Joanna did review it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Excuse me, moving on to additions and abatements.
I make a motion that we accept the tax assessor's recommendation for additions and abatements in 2017 first quarter appeal abatement in the total of $351.08. In the total, on the 2017 Board of Tax Assessment Review total $2,090.18.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, we have a letter from local 637 IPO.
I would like to read that letter
Yes.
to the public, for the record. It's dated October 30th, 2017, and is addressed to Dear President Denise, President DeFranco. The IPO Local 637 is addressing this letter to you and your fellow council members in reference to the status of the new police department station. A letter was sent to you and members of the town council on December 1st, 2016. The intention of that letter was to advise the town that the union agrees that something has to be done in reference to the deplorable, undersized, hazardous work conditions that your police department employees currently operate out of. Since the letter was sent, we have received no notification from the Forster Town Council with their plans to improve the working conditions, either with fixing known issues or expediting a building project. Chief Zeal has, however, discussed with union members the layout of the proposed building design and the steps the building committee has taken. The union has been advised from town officials and residents of Forster that there were several agencies that took a tour, inspected the station, and noted several safety concerns for your town employees and citizens. The union agrees that if that plan was to be approved, then it would drastically reduce the liability and safety concerns. The union has been supplied 3 inspection reports that were conducted at the present Forster Police Department at 182 Howard Hill Road. The first report the union has reviewed was the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust, which was inspected in January of 2016. There were 14 recommendations noted in that report. As noted in that report, the electrical system needs to have an entire evaluation conducted by a licensed and insured contractor. The trust further requested a plan of action for the removal or repair of the knob and tube wiring within 30 days. To our knowledge, only minor repairs have been made, leaving the liability and safety concerns still present. The union was also supplied with the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission report, which was conducted on February 4th, 2016. This report was intended to provide steps to meet compliance, also decrease the town's potential liability. This report noted that the main focus of inspection was the physical requirements necessary to meet compliance with the Rhode Island Police Accreditation standards. The following areas were evaluated with several requirements not met: communications, main entrance, conference room, interview, juvenile holding room, holding facility, prisoner processing, property and evidence control. The union was also supplied with the Rhode Island Division of State Fire Marshal's Inspection Report 16-264-IS, which was conducted on March 9th, 2016. Certified Fire Marshal Inspection Eric Kernan. This report listed 13 violations with a notation that the violations shall be corrected within 30 days of notice. After reviewing of these reports, it is evident that the building should not be used as a public building as it stands today. From violations not limited to ADA, American Disabilities Act, accessibilities, health, concerns of mold, creosote, lead, radon, to safety concerns of structural integrity, electrical system, walkways, stairways, as well as RIPAC standards. With that in mind, a public building that serves as an emergency headquarters for police communication center requires special accommodations to be compliant with these practices. It has also come to the attention of the union that IPO Local 502, Situate Police, we're operating under similar hazardous working conditions to include the concerns and/or presence of mold, asbestos, diminished air quality, and the structural integrity of the building itself. On September 14th, 2017, there was a public meeting where the Situate Town Council approved the new police department building. In the public meeting, it was also advised that the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust advised the previous Situate Town Council members in 2014 of the hazardous conditions of the police building. However, no action was taken, thus leaving their employees in a hazardous and unhealthy working environment. As stated in the last letter, the current police building increased civil liability against the town of Worcester, violates state and federal building and labor laws. Building codes and historically has hindered compliance with the law enforcement best practices that jeopardize insurance coverage, to include officer safety, as well as safety and security of citizens who enter the building. Thus, the union is requesting you, the town of Worcester, to respond in writing with a timeline of your plan of action to correct, improve the insufficiencies of this building while a new building is discussed. We, as the union, understand the financial difficulties that a small town has. However, a price should not be placed on safety of your employees you entrust to maintain peace and order in your town, You are also invited to attend IPO, International Brotherhood of Police Officers, Local 637 monthly meeting if you wish to discuss this. Respectfully submitted, IPDO Local 637 Board. Ray Peters, President. Mike Kitson, Vice President. Joseph Cole, Treasurer. That is the letter that's on the agenda.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to take it under advisement at this point.
Second.
And I would also be attending that meeting, if you could give me a reminder.
I'd like to know that meeting was as well.
Seconded by Chris. So, discussion.
I'm sure they're aware of the committee building that's a meeting. I know.
Yeah, no, she's saying
I'm
she's
talking
aware, I'm sure they're aware that there is a meeting.
I think my assessment of this bottom line is that they're looking for a time frame. They're looking to see what we have in mind and how we're
They got a
progressing.
crystal ball?
Well, no, actually,
No.
I can actually answer that, being on the committee. They are fully aware of what timeline we have. It's not a deadline timeline, but we know where we are. As a matter of fact, the union actually met with the architects prior to the building committee meeting. They had their own meeting and discussions and talking and stuff. They didn't attend our meeting, but some very enlightening things came during our public meeting that I wish they were there for. But at this point, they are aware, I'm sure they are, that it is now going out to have a survey done to get the solid numbers on what it's going to cost for this police station. So that's the number we need. And I would recommend as soon as we get that, we get it to the taxpayers to vote up or down.
When is your next meeting
14 this one.
of this month? Would there be any other, I have heard that Ms. Forrest and Mr. Rogers would like to attend. Is there any other council member? Would we need to, would we have to post it if?
It's their meeting.
It's their meeting, so we do not have to post it because we're there.
Right.
So, good to know. So if you are available November 14th, at what time?
Starting at 3.
Starting at 3? And where is it held? And
Please remind me.
thank you. Moving on.
Vote, voting under advisory.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Keep me on.
That was my motion.
So we had Gordon made the motion, Mr. Stone seconded it to take this under advisement. Any further discussion? All, yes.
I just have one question. Are you all gonna vote that meeting, or, because I'm just wondering about quorum?
Well, that's what we,
It's their
I'm just
meeting.
asking, it's their meeting, it's not us, so we do not need to, right. So, but I will not be present.
I realize that's some.
It's like the old, a shovel never shine up at a planning board meeting, it's not, has to be posted, it's not. I mean,
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the seasonal snowplow drivers. We have a request from Mr. Quacken. Would someone like to read it? I know, Mr. Rogers, you've been reading a lot.
Well, I have no problem reading this, I'll
Okay.
take a break when we get to the licenses.
Oh,
Dated November 7, 2017, from Bob Clark, DPW Director. Dear council members, as the winter season approaches, I would like to request that the town pay our part-time snowplow drivers as follows. Non-CDL drivers, $15 an hour and $22.50 an hour after 8 hours, which is 9.5. CDL drivers in six-wheel dump trucks with sander, $18 an hour and $27 an hour after 8 hours, which is 9.5. Since the DPW department went from 8 men to 6 men, I believe it is appropriate and prudent to give the incentive to those part-time drivers and CDL licensed people driving the big six-wheel dump trucks. And I'm feeling confident in hiring responsible people that will operate the truck in a safe and efficient manner. A DPW employee makes roughly $33.50 per hour on overtime and $44.70 an hour on double time, which they earn after 4 hours. I feel confident that the DPW employees can handle the vast majority of sanding operations during the winter, but we will need both CDL and non-CDL drivers to help during plowing operations. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me with this number. Sincerely, Bob Clark, DPW Director, Town of Boston. With that, for the sake of discussion, I will make a motion that we move forward with the recommendations on these fees to part-time drivers for the DPW as listed and I just read.
discussion. Mr. Clopton,
Yes.
how does this fall into your budget?
Well, it's certainly an increase from, I think, the non-CDL was, I think, $13 an hour. Someone who has a CDL who's in a big truck, you know, is valuable. I mean, it's,
I'm not in opposition, I just wanted to make sure.
yeah, I just think the time and a half is something new. Quite frankly, I think those told the men earn the money for time and a half to be plowing after 8 hours. And, you know, when you want them at their best, it's in the worst conditions, and that's what our guys do. And I think it's only fair to get time and a half for good quality people, retired from the department, or someone who grew up in town, knows the roads, treats our equipment good. That's what I recommend. It's certainly more than what we have paid. I think it's worth it for these guys that plow in pretty tough conditions for long periods of time.
Thank you.
Check the way down, it's actually in line with what Situate does too in Boston, so it's not out of the norm. I know there's times, and again, all our DPW workers are actually working first and often first choice before. So it's not putting somebody out in the seat, it's filling in.
And I certainly would go along with the recommendation of the DPW's or Mr. Coffin. I just wanted to see how it fit into our budget.
I don't know if I answered that, but I mean, it might, it's certainly more.
It's one of those things that he has a bunch of budget, he can move, he can move things around. It was something that even I had suggested we look into, because last year, it's hard to get people who want to drive for what we're paying them. And secondly, last year, we had so much snow that we were paying, we didn't have a contingency in our agreement to pay them time and a half. So these guys were working 15 hours for the same $13 or $14 an hour, and it was vastly unfair. So I suggested, and he totally agreed, that we do something to give them compensation for that 17th and 16th and 15th hour, you know?
So you can make it work.
We'll make it work, or me and somebody else can.
Mr. Coffin can make it. Any further discussion?
I'm just a little curious. These guys are driving these big trucks with plows and, that's pretty big, dangerous equipment. And they're going 18 hours.
Well,
I mean, that's.
They do have a period of rest in between, generally speaking, in an emergency.
Everybody plowing in the winter, state or local, are in 18-hour shifts.
I mean, that's a little dangerous, I would think.
There's not many people on the road. It's,
Well, the nurses are.
well, the police are too, but it's not uncommon during a storm to work. I exceed well over sometimes 20 hours.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, oh, Ms. Ross, I've been looking forward to this. Yes, I have. We have the budget changes resulting from the motor vehicle legislation. Thank you.
Dear Kelly, we are pleased to let you know that the motor vehicle data Forster submitted to the Department of Revenue does conform to the requirements of Rhode Island General Law 44-34.1-1 to 44-34.1-2 for the fiscal year of 2018 pursuant to Article 11 of 2018-H5175 Sub A as amended. Forster will see its motor vehicle and trailer excise tax pays out reimbursement in accordance with the attached letter. Sincerely, Jill Barrett, State Aid and Financial Specialist, Division of Motor Vehicle Finance, State of Rhode Island.
Ms. Russ, would you like to explain this to us?
Sure. So what they did was basically they said, our original baseline levy for motor vehicles alone, if you take that component out of the total levy, was $1,578,000. The revised certified levy for motor vehicles after all legislative changes were made was $1,300,000. So the difference is 200 and, I think it's even stated in here. Difference of being, say, $200 and some odd $1,000. They originally were going to give us about $74,000, so now our total reimbursement from the state of Rhode Island for motor vehicles to keep us whole is $339,000. That does in fact keep us whole, but there was original doubt as to whether or not they would do that. Going forward, that's a different story, but this year we will be made whole. So basically, although our budget is adopted at the financial town meeting, our revenue was never adopted. The only thing that's somewhat adopted is the levy. They give us a range. And we did account for this range, this legislative change when we went to our financial town meeting. So our levy is within our guidelines. So what I did was I adjusted our budgeted revenue to make sure that in total we were going to be okay. And I reflected in our revised budget for the revenue all the changes that were made. So if you notice on the attachment that I gave you, the revenue, our adjusted levy is now $12,660,000 versus it was originally $12,800,000 and something. So based on our collection rate that we did advertise, I kept the collection rate the same at 96.75%. So therefore, I adjusted down our current year tax uncollectible. And there was a difference of about $17,000 in there. So what I did was I adjusted that through the prior year tax collection so that we would now have a balanced budget. Otherwise, it would have looked like we had a surplus. We budgeted for surplus. The reason being, and this is what they've spoken about extensively, because every community has complained extensively about the cost of this legislative change, because they did it after the fact. So what happened is all of our employees had to work harder, we had to mail out additional bills, actually mailed out completely new bills for every person with a motor vehicle. Then we had to issue $30,000 worth of refunds, but that $30,000 worth of refunds was about, what, 300 or 400 checks? So there was postage related to that. There was a lot of expenses related to this, and people were complaining about it. Their response was, we are reimbursing you 100% of what your loss, what that levy change was. Nobody budgets for a 100% collection rate. So therefore, you're gonna take the difference between what you budgeted and what your collection and what you're receiving, and that should offset your costs. It's in fact true. It was almost exact, probably, if I had to do that. The problem is that revenue and expenditures are not the same. So you don't take the additional expenditures and just plug it against a revenue account simply because they're saying that's how you're gonna pay for it. So what may occur is you will have a surplus in revenue, and you might have it overexpended in your expenditures. And that's just because that's how I'm gonna do it, because that's the right way. Some people might actually take those expenses and charge against the revenue, but from an auditing and accounting standpoint, you really don't charge expenditures against the revenue. So that's what I did. I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna reflect it in the budget that's on the computer, because it's a bottom line budget. I might just show that, but this would be, if you will accept these changes as real, I'm gonna actually enter this into the computer. Otherwise, all year long, I'll be trying to do some sort of calculation to see what I'm target on our collections. Also, I wanted to point out, by doing so, we had originally gone up 2.5% on our levy, and now we only actually increased our levy by 0.45%. So that's eventually going to come up because people will say, well, what's your levy increase, et cetera, et cetera. And now we said, you know, it's a decrease of what we originally adopted by 2%. And also another thing to point out is now the 4% going forward is on the lesser amount. So it's something to always keep in mind. So now you don't take what was lost and add them in. And actually, we don't want to go up 4% anyway, so hopefully it's not relative. But next year, you might see that you're going up a little bit more than you thought you were because of a lesser amount. That dollar amount is going to be a greater percentage, and you're going to have some explaining to do, and it's difficult to explain. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Do you need a motion for that?
I would just like you to accept it as I presented it to you, and that's what I'll use going forward.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we accept this as presented.
Second.
Second. Okay, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The next item is the DPW Director position advertisements.
I make a motion that, although Mr. Clark is going to be leaving us, so,
I didn't know that since then.
I'm not sure everybody knew that, Mr. Rogers.
again, we're going to be advertising for a replacement of Mr. Clarkin, so he's agreed to stay on and work through the process of help. So I'm going to make a motion to go out for advertisement for a DPW Director replacement. And
Where would you like these advertisements?
on the state website. I think, is there a state website? There are.
Not really.
Well, the town, this is the one I'm thinking of, where they put,
There's a DPW, there's a DPW organization that you can put it on there so that attracts people with like experience.
that's what,
I was thinking of Indeed. That's a good avenue for this type of job. the website and then probably someplace local, and that encompasses all of your people.
Okay. So that was my motion.
Is there a second?
Right.
Discussion.
Did Mr. Clark submitted a resignation?
No.
We have not received one at this point.
Oh, okay.
By contract, I have to give 3 weeks' notice,
Ah.
and I don't feel I need to give that resignation letter. Knowing that there's not another meeting for 5 weeks, that's why I kind of came up tonight. So,
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's a long meeting.
Moving on to surplus equipment, Mr. Clarkin has requested the council's approval for the following acceptable minimum amount called reserve amount for the following truck, which he would like to place the item and other surplus equipment on gumdeals.com by 11/17.
Make a motion, we accept the DPW director's recommendation to advertise in gloves, equipment, gloves, surplus equipment, .com, the 2002 Ford F-350 for $1,500.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are now moving into our public hearing for a liquor license renewal. This had been advertised in the appropriate locations. It was at the Valley Breeze, and there were several, there was a copy of it here if anybody wants to see it. Before we move on, the hearing procedure is that we will hear from anybody who's in favor or anybody who's, and then who's opposed, and then we'll move on. We have before us, council members have before you the wordage for, you got it? Go right ahead, Mr. Rogers.
All right, first motion. I move that in conformity with under the authority of provisions of Title III, Chapter 3-5 of the General Laws of the State of Rhode Island, revised of 1956, as amended, and any and all amendments thereto, the annual fees for Class A package store license shall be and are hereby fixed at $400 each. That the annual fees for Class B victualling, I always have a problem with this, I think I get it by now. Victualers, BV, BVL, shall be and hereby fixed at $400 each. That the annual fees for Class D unlimited shall be and is hereby fixed at $800 each. That the annual fee for extra hour closing shall be and hereby fixed at $200. That the annual fee for entertainment license shall be and hereby is fixed at $200. That the annual fee for holiday sales is $25.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to.
I move that all holders of such licenses here under granted except Class A package store licenses are hereby granted permission to hold dances in their respective places so licensed.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I move that no transfer application or applications that may be made to have one or more granted licenses transferred from one person to another person or persons at the same location without a specific consideration and determination by the town council.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I move that the following persons and corporations be and are hereby granted renewal licenses for their respective places of business pending receipt of certificates of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation to the town clerk with the approval from the police chief, tax collector, building inspector, fire chief, and Rhode Island Department of Health Certificate of Service Training Program. Class A package store including Sunday and holiday sales, license for Healy's Liquors Incorporated, DBA Healy Liquor Store, 144 Danielson Pike. License for the Watering Hole, LLC, DBA The Watering Hole, at 185 Hartford Pike.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I reiterate my motion for the following. Class BV licenses. License for Thomas Breard, DBA Lucky's, 143 Danielson Pike. License for Tycomac Enterprises, LLC, DBA Forster Country Club at 67 Johnson Road. License for Helen's Place Incorporated, DBA Helen's Place, 172 Danielson Pike. License for Woodland Meeting House, LLC, DBA Woodland Meeting House at 115 East Gillenly Road.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I reiterate my motion for the following. Class BBL license. License for Shady Acres, LLC, DBA Shady Acres at 164 Danielson Pike.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I reiterate my motion for the following. Class D license. License for Little Rhodey Basil Park Incorporated, DBA Little Rhodey Basil Park at 10 Boswell Trail.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I move that the number of liquor licenses to be granted and issued for the during the current term next ensuing December 2nd, 2017 and ending December 1st, 2018 shall be as follows. Class A package store, 2. Class B victualers, 4. Class BBL, 1. Class D unlimited, 1. And furthermore, that the town clerk shall not receive any other applications without the approval of the town council.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I move that the following persons be and hereby granted entertaining, ongoing, open recreation event renewal licenses for the respective places of business with the approval from the police chief, tax collector, building inspector, fire chief, and the Rhode Island Department of Health Certificate of Server Training Program. Entertaining, ongoing, open recreation event licenses. License for Thomas Breard, DBA Lucky's Pizza, 143 Danielson Pike. License for Tycomac Enterprises, LLC, DBA Forster Country Club, Incorporated at 67 Johnson Road. License for Woodland Meeting House, LLC, DBA Woodland Meeting House at 115 East Gillenly Road. And license for Helen's Place Incorporated, DBA Helen's Place at 172 Danielson Pike.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I move to approve the following businesses have applied for renewal of game and amusement devices licenses. Lucky's Pizza, 2 machines, 1 pool table. Helen's Place, 1 pool table. Woodland Meeting House, 1 machine, 1 pool table.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
I move that it is ordered in granting these previously specified and numbered licenses that the provisions of said general laws of 1956 as amended and all amendments thereof and thereto, and also provisions for any and all laws affecting such licenses shall be applied, and such licenses are hereby granted subject to such rules and regulations and conditions heretofore established or that may hereafter be established by the town council of Forster, and that licenses hereby granted shall expire on the first day of December 2018 at 12 o'clock midnight, unless sooner revoked for cause.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I now close the public hearing. Moving on. Future agenda items. We have the Swamp Meadows Theater half show. We have the financial statements and standard policies and procedures for non-town entities. We have the EMA EOC follow-up. We also have the interviews or the appointment for the EMA. In December, we have board appointments that are expiring. I also added the resolution for the PUC that was requested by Mr. Coughlin.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is Swamp Meadow on
They have
What
not-
do we have to?
They have not gotten back to us as far as that, no, that issue, that.
Action.
If they ignore it, maybe they think it'll go away.
Yes. I have been in touch with them several times, and they're in the process of finding out something. So I will call them one more time, and then, yeah. I will call them one more time, and then we will remove it, and keep it in the back of our mind when it shows up again.
Denise, you did include, Clark, you just emailed, but you did include this from.
Yes, resolution
He
for,
said, resolution from council to state oversight of
Yes.
the international.
yes, I have that. Executive session.
She said she.
You are.
What you gave me was a recusal form, three of them, and I only needed one.
Does that have any weight? Will it have any weight? Is there
I think you will get it to, well, I'm not sure that any of them are told anybody, right? But I think we need to express our concern, and perhaps, I forgot her name, from Coventry, who is right now spearheading that committee, is in favor of those resolutions, so maybe she can go with that. So, executive session.
I move to go into executive closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-42-4 for the reasons stated in Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, A9, International Brotherhood of Police Officers Local 637 arbitration, and A1, International Brotherhood of Police Officers Local 637 grievance.
Is there a second? Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
We're going to take a short